Hello, and welcome to today's InDiCo-Global webinar. My name is Alton Mulligan from Etsy, one of the partners in the InDiCo-Global project. InDiCo-Global is a European Union-funded coordinating and support action project aimed at developing global cooperation for digital standards and related policies. The partners in InDiCo-Global are Etsy, Sen, Senelec, Martel Innovate, and Trust IT. InDiCo-Global has set aside a budget of €1 million to fund small projects in target regions on the basis of open calls for proposals. Here you see the first 12 projects that have been funded in the first open call. Today, we're going to hear from two such projects in two different regions, two different continents, in fact, both on the subject of strengthening digital public services through standards. Debora Comparin will share her work on developing security guidelines for digital identity wallets in Africa, bridging regulatory gaps between the EU's eIDAS framework and emerging continental trust frameworks, with the overall aim to build scalable, secure, and locally adaptable models that enable trusted cross-border digital identity solutions. Julio Herrera from Guatemala will present efforts to strengthen digital government services through the adoption of European ICT standards, improving transparency, accessibility, and interoperability in public administration. Before I hand over to our speakers, I would like to remind you of some quick points about our webinar today. The session will be recorded and shared on all InDiCo-Global channels, so you can check back shortly and watch the recording again, or better still, inform your colleagues and friends about the recording so they can go watch it. Please keep your microphone muted unless you want to speak to avoid background noise. Please use the raise hand feature in Zoom if you'd like to contribute or ask a question during the discussion, but we would rather keep the questions towards the end of the webinar. Please feel free to share comments or questions in the chat box at any time. And if you're speaking, please turn on your camera if you're comfortable with it, but also because it's a useful accessibility feature. People like to, who have the hard of hearing, prefer to see people's lips move. Now, over to you, Debora.
Thank you very much. Allow me to share my screen. Thank you very much, and hello, everybody. I will present this project called Enhancing Digital Identity Security. The idea is, as anticipated, is to develop guidelines for security levels of digital identity wallets between Europe and Africa. So Europe and Africa are really the two regions of focus for this project. This project has been founded, is one of the beneficiaries of the grant of the first open call under InDiCo-Global. Back to digital identity. I think you all seen probably this this drawing on the internet. Nobody knows you're a dog. This is very true, unfortunately, and it's still true. This came out decades ago in the New Yorker. And it is a very nice and concise way to explain that we do have a problem with digital identity. Meaning, I think you're all familiar with the fact that when you go online, you probably are asked to fill out personal information in some forms, and you probably store a copy, a PDF copy of your passport in your email or somewhere on your phone, your devices. And you're sometimes asked to share it to access services in the web. So this is not a great way to handle digital identity, especially because it is about our personal data. And when it's about passports, it can really be misused by bad actors. So funny enough, we did find a solution for digital payment. So we are able today to pay online, and the payment works across border, so among different states, and the user experience it is actually quite good. So today we do need to fix this problem around digital identity, and it's not just me saying that, although I'm passionate about this problem, but it is really a recognized priority globally. So here I put really what I think in the slides are the two major examples of why this is a global priority, but there would be others. So the OECD have actually in 2007, they have stated the following. So the right to effective digital personhood will arguably be the most fundamental right in the future information society. So this is super important, because it is a recognition that this is a global right, and we should strive to solve this problem of digital identity. And a little bit later, the United Nations, when they coined the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, they actually added goal 16.9, which states what you see in the slide, meaning that by 2030, we need to make sure that everybody have a legal identity, including birth registration. We're missing here the word digital, but it still recognizes the importance of somehow having a baseline of a legal identity to then be able to use it, of course, in the analog world as well as in the digital world. And this is really the baseline that is pushing different governments in the past probably 5 years. There's been an acceleration in tackling the concept of digitalizing legal identity. There are many different approaches to get to a solution on digitalizing legal identity, but this project is about digital identity wallet. And that's because probably it is the latest in terms of technology and thinking, and also it is what the EU has been focusing on in the past 5 years. So what is a digital wallet? So essentially, it's a way of thinking digital identity like almost like in the analog world. So we are thinking today we have passports, driving licenses, identity cards, diplomas that are all somehow either in paper or plastic. And what we want is to digitalize all of those and store them somewhere in a device under the control of the user. So this is very important. So the user has this digital version of legal identity and documents and credentials in general, and is able to share and to use them exactly like what you do when you pay online. So you have your credit card and you just use your device and you're able to transact and purchase different goods independently of where the merchant is located. So be it in your country or in another country, and it does work, and it's supposed to be safe. So that's supposed to be, so we need to reach the same level of safety and user convenience for personal data. So we get in a little bit into the details now of how digital identity wallet concept works, so that the project will be a little bit clearer. So in this simplified view, we see three stakeholders. And basically what we have is the issuer, the holder, that is the user, and the verifier, that could be any services online. So we start with us, so with the user. As I mentioned, the concept of wallet is normally you can think of it as an app in your phone. And that's where you store your documents in a digital format and your personal data. And actually, you need, as a user, to be able to control this data, but also to ask any issuer. So it could be your university, it could be your government, and say, I want this digital version of my personal information stored in my phone, in my device, so that I can control how I handle it and share it. And so that's this initial concept, that's this left part of this diagram. So that's the user, like me. I contact my government and I ask for my identity card to be issued, to be sent to my device in a digital format. Then I want to purchase, for example, a train ticket or a flight ticket. And again, the airline, should be the verifier in this case, is asking me who I am, wants actually some information like my passport. And so thanks to this new technology, thanks to this concept of wallet, I'm able to share with the airline or the train company my personal information as requested, for example, my passport. And this should be done in a very secure manner so that I don't overshare my personal data, but also that in a way that doesn't get lost somewhere in the web. That's in simple word the concept of digital identity wallet and what is expected to come for all of us based in Europe. So if there's anybody here in the webinar that are based in Europe, by 2026, you will have this opportunity to use the digital identity wallet. This is a concept that has been clearly worked on in Europe, but not only. So there are many other regions in the world that are with different level of maturity that are getting into solving the digital identity problem. The issue we have today is that there's no alignment. So every government, every region seems to be very focused, domestically speaking, to digitalize passport ID cards and so on and so forth. But there's not, probably, this is a personal opinion, not enough coordination among the different regions. And this project aims to look at the security. So there are various areas we could focus on when we talk about digital identity wallet. And what is actually dear to my heart is and really where my expertise lies is in security. So what I want to develop is some practical cross-regional security guidelines for digital identity wallets. So in essence, I want to check what is happening in Europe, thanks to the eIDAS 2 and the EU regulation. What are the guidelines on security for Europe? And also what, at the same time, in parallel, is being developed in the African continent. So that's really the focus, Europe and Africa, and looking at cross-regional security and seeing what guidelines, what could be the common denominators between these two regions. Essentially, we can break down this project into two objectives. So the first one is to share eIDAS to, so the European regulation to digital identity wallet, and share the security standards and the deployment strategies that are being discussed in the EU with the African continent via some of the partners that are working in this project with me. And that's really like the beginning, the first part. And then the second part is to understand what are the expectation, the discussion level, and what's the standard being developed in the African continent, and develop guidelines on what could be some common, if any, some common denominators for security levels. By being pragmatic and understanding what is possible and what are the differences between the two continents. The EU, this is an example so that maybe you get a little bit more concrete. So what I'm talking about, the European Union is, European Commission is working hard on this concept of digital identity wallet. There are many documents out there, and this is a high-level architecture view. And as you can see here, they also do have some precise idea around what security would look like and what would be the requirements on security. Although obviously there are some options because we have 27 member states, and then there will be some differences in choices as to the deployment of this security for each member state. So in terms of how do we get there, it is an ambitious project. And so to make it simpler, then I broke down this problem into different parts, and that's the methodology on how to get to these common denominators for security. So first of all, I need to have a solid understanding of what is being developed in the EU. So what are the security standards under eIDAS? And second, there has been development by the African Union for a Pan-African trust framework for digital identity. So it is important to understand what's being decided by African Union today with the collaboration of many African countries, and what is the security posture that exists at the moment. Then we need to understand regional context for security deployment. I don't think a copy and paste from one region to another can just work. And so I think we need to adapt, and by adapting, we need to understand what are the constraints, and they are obviously different between the two continents. Then we need to share the EU approach, and this will help us to open a dialogue and understand then what could be among the two approaches, the minimum common denominators, and then what are the deltas and the differences in security. And it is very important, even if the two regions will finally have make different choices in terms of security, I think it's very important to understand what are the deltas in between two, because I do think that identities like payments, it will work cross-border. We'll see no boundaries. So we need to be able to trust the security level of a wallet coming from country A or country B or C. And so even if the choices of security are different. So I think there's not going to be any global, probably anytime soon convergence, but this is the beginning of this discussion. The project has not started yet. So as you can see here, like to share the timeline. So it is bound to start on the 1st of June, and it will end at the end of the InDiCo program, so by the end of November. The first thing I'm going to do is, again, to look at in details into the EU security requirements. So that would mean essentially going through the EU regulation, the ARF, the Architecture Reference Framework, the different other legal documents, implementing acts specifically that are being published and worked on to derive the security requirements that today are being developed in Europe. And at the same time, doing the same with African Union and what they are developing for the African continent. Once I have these two visions, then it will be possible to get a comparison matrix of the security requirements. And so being able to display in a way that is concise the differences, if any, between these two approaches. And then I will look into the details of the options for secure hardware platforms. So when we're talking about security of wallets, we need to understand where the cryptography runs. I will not get into the technical details now, but what are the options that actually concretely we're looking at for security of wallets? And what are these differences among these options? And this is where with Carnegie Mellon in Rwanda, so the partner in this project, we are looking at what is possible, what is adaptable to the African continent. So we're really studying out of all these options of security hardware, what could work in the context of Africa and what could work in the context of Europe. And then pragmatically speaking, what are the differences and what is the delta in security? I'm planning to develop this guideline that will be a publicly available document, and I would benefit from peer review. Peers that will work in my field, but I will really open it to anybody to be able to comment and to contribute. I do hope that this project will have an impact on overall on the trust system, because there is no digital identity without trust. This is why it's so complicated to get it right. And this is why we don't have it yet today in the ecosystem. So I do hope that this will help fostering trust in digital identity system, will help governments when they digitalize their services and they move to an e-government concept to make sure that there's better security. And overall, I'm really planning to and hoping to contribute to global cybersecurity, because let us remind that digital identity is an important component of global cybersecurity efforts. Thank you for listening to me so far. So this is a link to my, this is a QR code that will take you to my LinkedIn page. If you are interested in digital identity or security in this project, I really welcome any feedback or opinion, or if you want to collaborate, I'm also open to that. So don't hesitate to reach out to me via message. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Debora. Very interesting presentation. In the interests of time, I think we'll pass straight over to Julio, but please, if you have questions for Debora, please stay online. We'll have time for questions at the end. And also, you could think about dropping them in the chat window as well. That might help her prepare an answer if you have anything. So with that, I think I'll hand over to you, Julio. Thank you very much, Debora.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are. Everyone, my name is Julio Herrera. I'm the Executive Director of Red Ciudadana, a civil society organization based in Guatemala. I'm going to talk a little bit about our project and what we're doing about digital transformation in our country, in Guatemala, in Central America. As I mentioned, I'm the Secretary Director of Red Ciudadana, which translates in Citizens in Network or Citizens Connected. We're an organization that has been working in the past 12 years. We were young at the moment we started. Right now, we're not that young, but we're looking forward to promote transformation in our country and in Central America and the region. Today, well, I'm very honored to present our initiative under the InDiCo-Global program called Enhancing Digital Government in Guatemala through European ICT Standards. This project has a vision to make public institutions in Guatemala more transparent, more efficient, and more inclusive, using all the standards that we have seen around European Union. And of course, this project is a beneficiary of the first open call of the InDiCo-Global project and is funded by the European Union. With this project, we're looking to set all the European standards to replicate it in Guatemala and to move forward in the digital transformation agenda. So let's talk a little bit about Guatemala and how is right now performing on the digital part. Guatemala has made a progress in digitalization in the past years, but we're still having a lot of issues regarding frameworks, regarding fragmented data systems, weak interoperability, limited access for vulnerable communities, for example. We're still having some issues about connecting people around the country. Not everyone is online, and not everyone had access, not everyone has the equipment to try to connect this. And some indicators that can give us more information about this, for example, is the Human Development Index in 2022 sets Guatemala as the 136th country between 193. That's a little bit far away from the top countries. We're a little bit behind as well in the e-government development index. We're ranking in the place 122 of 193 countries. So we are far away from this part as well in the open data and internet penetration. We're seeing some challenges in the country. Unfortunately, we haven't put this on a priority agenda for the country. We haven't seen important advances. And this is important because we don't have the laws in the country. We don't have the digital frameworks that promote and move forward how Guatemala is going to create this digital transformation. During the COVID pandemic 19, we saw a lot of demand from citizens to say we have to evolve and transform for a more digital response from the government. And unfortunately, the government was not ready for all this demand, for all these people asking for this type of services to be done online. So that provided us a lot of insights on the importance and the priority to move forward, how we can promote a government that is more digital, how we can promote digital transformation in our country. So we look in this European Union program, how we can build this pathway to address this type of gaps, right? And how we can use and provide already proven European ICT standards to reform how digital services are designed and being delivered in Guatemala. So our project has 5 core objectives. The first is promote the adaptation of the European ICT standards in public administration. The second one is to strengthen the interoperability across institutions. The third one is promoting an open data system, ecosystem in the country, try to be more open. The fourth one is to improve the accessibility for minorities and underserved populations. And last but not least, that provide technical and capacities in the public sector. So I'm going to address each one of the objectives. The first one is to adopt and try to promote European ICT standards. We think it's important because we have a very strong lack of frameworks and laws and standards, of course. We can see one of the top and the leaders around the world that is doing this European ICT standards. Can be great to promote this and address better how we're doing things in Guatemala. The second, as I mentioned, we have a weak connection between institutions. There's not enough data exchange. There's not enough data collaboration. So we're trying to promote a lot of interoperability across institutions, try to have more horizontal conversations, how we can create through standards, but also through systems, how institutions connect and how users can see their public services being connected easily. The third one, the open data ecosystem as well. We have seen this close information between the government. We don't have a lot of information. There's not enough. And when they provide information, it's not in open data standards. So we got PDFs and we cannot do anything with that. We have to work, promote a roadmap where we gather more information about development, about in open data, more transparent, and so we can use them to promote and create a change in our country. And the last one, that's very important, the part of accessibility. We have still a lot of challenges of connecting people around Guatemala, but still some challenges around languages, for instance, and also accessibility for people that has a potential challenges accessing a website. And last but not least, the importance to creating capacities in the public sector. It's important because we have to create public officers that understand digital transformation, have the skills to promote and move forward. So that's a little bit about the objectives. Our strategy as Red Ciudadana and these objectives is in 5 strategic pillars. The first is to research and do a policy alignment with European standards based on what we have in Guatemala. We have been working and researching and also trying to adapt and align with the current situation we have in the country with the ICT standards around European Union. The second one is try to implement digital tools that can help move forward these objectives. The third one, and a very important one, is creating training programs for public officers. As I mentioned, we're still having some issues with providing the skills for the public officers. So for us, it's very important to create these training programs so we can build the skills of the future we're trying to promote. The fourth pillar is regarding a knowledge exchange. Try to create more experiences and exchanges between the European standards with the local standards in Guatemala. And the last one, monitoring evaluation to see how we're having an impact in a country. How are we going to implement this? We have been doing this research about the standards, and we're trying to apply all what already is implemented in our country, in Guatemala, to see how we can align this, how we can make some. And a good example of this is, unfortunately, in our country, we don't have a data protection law that allows citizens to be safe about their data information. So we have been searching about the standards of GDPR that is have been implemented in European Union. We have been sharing this information, these standards, promoting them around Guatemala with public officers in the executive branch, but also in the legislative branch or the Congress. And right now we're starting a discussion in the Congress, so how we can implement the law that can really help Guatemalans to protect their data based on the ICT standards in the European Union. So that's an example of how we're trying to promote this and how we're implementing this. Of course, the training programs, we have been doing some training programs in the past months. with regarding to create these digital skills in data protection and cybersecurity, interoperability, and promoting the accessibility as well. And the last thing is creating these exchanges. For us, it's very important to see other institutions from different countries around the world that are using this standard, European standards, and how been adopting this type of things in countries near Latin America, for example, Colombia, Mexico, they're having implementations and they are doing their own challenges as well as Latin American countries, but having implemented. So how we, as Guatemalans, can address this type of situation, how we can move forward, this is important. Passing to the implementation timeline, well, the project is developed on a span of 7 months. In the first 2 months, we have a focus on the research and the stakeholder mapping. We have understanding how things are going in Guatemala to make an implementation. The months from 2 to 4, we have dedicated to all this trainings for public officers, how we can create these digital skills for public officers and for congressmen that are right now discussing these laws in the country so we can move forward. Then in the last months, we're trying to implement some of these tools and hopefully get these laws moving forward. So ending the project in August 2025 with the culmination of an advanced digital atmosphere here in Guatemala. Our main or expected impact is to have more than 100 public officers trained in key standards of European ICT standards. Try to promote the adaptation of open data, for instance, in targeted institutions as well. Promoting interoperability in 5 institutions, key agencies. Promoting as well accessibility in 5 institutions in the executive branch. And this is, of course, being done with the support and the partnerships, strategic collaborations, right? We're having local partners in Guatemala. We have 5 institutions for the executive branch that we're working right now. Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Interior, that is promoting cybersecurity laws as well. The Secretary of Planification of the Presidency, and the Ministry of Education that is promoting all this education around the executive branch. But we are also working with the Commission of Digital Transformation in the Congress that right now is having all these discussions. So all this training and data sharing and also exchanges with experts around the world or European standards are helping moving the agenda and the Congress moving forward. And with this, we're looking forward. Also, we're partnering with some local important stakeholders from the private sector, with, for example, with Fundesa and Export that are promoting the importance of private sector in the process, but also with civil society organizations that are a critical player in the digital transformation in Guatemala. That's a little bit about the project. First, thank you so much and a lot of generous support from InDiCo-Global and the European Union for the funding this project. We're looking forward to create a sustainable path for public institutions to continue the implementation of international digital governance standards. And thank you so much for your time and interest in. More well than welcome to share, connect, and opportunities. In the chat, I've just put the websites where we have all the information about the project, institution of the Red Ciudadana, and let's continue working together to make a digital government more transparent, accessible, and accountable for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Julio. I think now we pass over to Rob, who will coordinate the questions, perhaps. You need to unmute, Rob.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Very good. No, before I maybe I have two short questions. So, Julio, it seems that this is a very timely moment to do this work, right? So, when with the Congress sort of having this kind of committee or this kind of on there's clearly some demand in the ministries and And so it seems that it's a good time at the moment to do this.
Yes, definitely. It's a good time. We're very happy and uh, happy with the support of the InDiCo with this project because it came in a very important moment in the time of Guatemala. Unfortunately, we haven't moved at the same time at other countries around the region trying to promote the digital transformation. But in the past 2 years, we have been having a lot of discussions with the Congress and with the executive branch on how we can move forward the agenda. And at this moment, we're seeing some opportunities that arise at the same time as the project has started to create this and to have these discussions. There's still a lot of uh, importance to understand, to learn, to see what we can apply in our country. So for us, trying to have this trainings on European standards is very important because we're seeing how this is being implemented in the past and in the regions and what reforms are needed in our country to do this. So it has helped a lot, Congressman, as well as discussion in the commission because we're seeing how this is being implemented, as well as having exchange with other countries as Colombia, Mexico. You realize how Latin America is tackling some of these issues. And right now, how the discussion is moving forward, we can learn a little bit about what worked and what didn't work in some countries. So we can use that in our advance to move forward the discussion. And when the other part, of course, the executive branch lacks or has these big challenges regarding interoperability. So this has come as well at an important moment because we're trying to give them more information so they can take better decisions and they can move forward. And in the last part, civil society as well is very interesting because there's a lot of demand for civil society organizations and for citizens to see an improvement in the public services. Right now, there are some still public services you have to do physically at the moment, right? That was a big challenge during COVID-19 pandemic, how we can transform all these physical public services in a way that can be accessible online. And the government was not prepared. From that part, they started working towards how we can make it, but still we're facing some challenges. And I think it's important to work in these standards, implement them this so we can have better public services for citizens.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And of course, the digital was a horizontal operation. It sort of it hit everyone in kind of the same way. And the very good examples that we see now, for example, in Estonia, with its let's say fully digital government, that could only come about because when the Russians left, basically there was nothing left in the countries and the people I spoke to that are doing this kind of digital transformation in Estonia. They told me that there was basically nothing. There was nothing in the ministries, and the country didn't exist basically at all at that time. And so it was very logical and also, I wouldn't say easy, but more easy to go fully digital when you build on nothing. But we have to deal with legacy, and always and everywhere, these legacy issues are very real. And so this is it's a very complex issue, and it's never going to be easy because it cannot be easy. Now we have another project in InDiCo-Global, which is based in Bolivia. Maybe you know Nicole Sanchez. And so this the problem that there is no regulatory framework that there around data protection is in several countries sort of at the moment. So maybe we can also have some discussion about how this works and what's functioning. And we heard from her that she is also targeting the cities at the city level. So she's not going only to this national level of trying to get the discussion going, but also on the level of cities. So that is these are things that we see happening, which is I think very interesting. Yeah, so the things that's happening.
May I add something?
Yes, please.
So It's very interesting, Julio's presentation. Thank you. And while you were all talking just now about digitalization in the government, I had this curiosity if among these different digitalization paths, you were also looking at digital identity and what is happening in Europe, and if there is any project in Guatemala around that.
Let's call it, we have like an open Canva when we can create new things and different things, learning what everyone has already do. Unfortunately, we don't have that much advance in different subjects. And one of the biggest issues, we don't have a leadership in the digital transformation agenda in the government part. So regarding your specific question about digital identity, we have an institution that leads this part, but hasn't made the transformation from an analog to a digital part. There are some discussion, and we have been uh, having some discussions and events or conversations with experts around Latin America. For instance, last year we got uh, people from AGESIC, from Uruguay here, and they said we have to start with digital identity. I think that was something very interesting. But when we talk about this with the public officers, they say, yeah, it's important, but we need to invest a lot of money to make the transformation, and we're not there yet. We're going to create a roadmap. That's what they said at the moment. And that's some of the things we're discussing here in Guatemala, how we can move forward and to create this digital identity, and how we can start as well promoting digital services around this. And we had some examples as well from Estonia, from Ukraine. Some of the apps are connected through X-Road and can have this part and importance. And we have been having a lot of discussion about this here. Unfortunately, one of the key elements is we don't have, well, two key elements is we don't have a leadership from the executive branch. We have a specific institution that leads this discussion. So it has been a little bit dissipated or isolated. And the other part is the law. Congress has been a little bit lazy in the past years approving this type of laws. Let's call it that way. We don't have anything. So it's like an open Canva because we can create a lot of things and we don't have that much movement. But yeah, we need to move forward on those type of things, and digital identity as well is an important thing. The priority right now in the Congress with the commission we're working is data protection. As Ralph mentioned, the project in Bolivia, that's one of the key laws we're looking forward to being approved this year. Hopefully, cybersecurity as well. I think that those the two that the Congress agree that they might be moving forward. But of course, we have to as well move forward in digital identity and interoperability and other type of things that are critical to promote a digital transformation. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
I was going to make exactly the same comment that you made, Rob, to Julio about what's happening in Bolivia and how that they've almost given up on having a national law. And now they're starting to look at what they can do at municipal level. But I had a sort of a question for Debora as well. I attended the first ITU conference on digital SDGs, which was actually fascinating, was eye-opening for me. And one of the things that was pointed out was that there was COVID basically created a lot of necessity to create very quick and dirty digital identity programs around the world, because they needed, and digital payment systems and things like this, because governments basically needed to push payments out to their citizens because they were out of work or they couldn't turn up for physical payments in benefits offices or that sort of thing, because simply travels were restricted. And this also was happening not just in the developed world, but right throughout Africa and Southeast Asia, and in fact in every continent, in every country. And so they put in, as I said, some quick and dirty solutions. Do you find many of them still present and in operation in your studies, or have you are most of them almost died, or is there an appetite now to replace them with something more secure?
Yeah, that's a very good remark, and it's very true. COVID was an accelerator, and it was an eye-opener in a way. So I think government really understood that they had to move fast on this, because when something like that happened, clearly we showed that we were not ready. There has been, yes, some quick and dirty implementations. I've not seen much surviving. I think it was really done for the emergency, right? I also think that it was not really covering digital identity as a whole. So it was really like for the vaccine certificate mostly. That was really what we were focusing on at the time. And also the other issue is that we do need the regulation. So it's a bit like what Rob was saying, and also Julio. So behind digital identity is not just the technological problem. We do need regulation, because we're talking about privacy of data, personal data, and also digitalization of legal documents, so given by governments. So without an underlying regulation, it's very difficult to move forward. So I think sometimes in some regions we are still at the stage where we have to build the regulation first, and then we need to go on to the technology. Sometimes it's also the opposite. Sometimes technology comes first, and then sort of like you retro regulate, which didn't show. I mean, personally, I think it's not the best approach, but definitely it goes faster. So India did that, for example. But yeah, I think there's a lot that needs to happen, and I'm not sure that COVID helped, apart from the fact that it was an eye-opener as to we need to get this fixed.
Yes, and I have also a question on the payment sort of aspect. So it's a very naive question, but why did it work in payments? Sort of why is it working in payments? So yeah. So
yeah, it's not at all naive. So in payment it works, I guess, because the business model is clearer. So because there's money to be made, in simple terms. So every time you do like a transaction, there's a certain percentage of that transaction that is retained by various stakeholders in the payment ecosystem. When it comes to identity, that's far less clear, right? So like, who is going to pay for this infrastructure? Definitely government will have right to chip in, but what is the interest for private sector? How will it work? Do we have a payment per transaction? What is the business model behind digital identity? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. I think many bright people are working on this, but to me, it's probably the key as to why one moved forward quickly and worked, and the other one is still in its infancy. I think digital identity is more about citizen rights and protection of those rights. So it's yeah, and far less about a clear business model.
yeah, and sort of the move to the wallet, I think, is a tremendously important one, because it's very difficult to go back once you moved to the wallet. and so I guess in a way identity will be broken down in credentials. So in the passport, the driver's license, the diploma, sort of all these credentials that we will be gathering from current institutions, as well as credentials that we will be making ourselves in order to expose ourselves. So maybe every time we use one of these credentials, there could be a fee or something, or sort of like one of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some, as I mentioned, some bright people that are on the topic to try to figure it out. It's not an easy one. Yes.
And so as you're going to focus also a lot on security of the wallet, I think also around the current status of the European wallet, there are some discussions, I think, especially on cryptography. Because in the end, the wallet, as it stands now, is going to be an app in a phone. And it's going to be then also very much related to the Apple or the Google, or sort of like the sort of, and I think the discussion here is now on in how far the carriers, the phones are are basically influencing the level of cryptography that we see now in the wallet. And so these discussions, I think, are all happening. And I think this is very important because indeed, like you say, sort of once we go to this digital wallet infrastructure, we're going to be putting our entire sort of everything, all our credentials basically in there that are now far more distributed, in the sense that I can show a paper passport, I can show a plastic driver's license, and sort of but once they're all there in this wallet, I think there are some issues around cryptography and revoking sort of the rights of. So these are very important topics. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and this is why it's a very complex topic, and this is also why we need a regulation underpinning whatever we do. Then, of course, let us remind that it's not mandatory, right, for the user, so we can always opt out. So if you don't want to, you can always opt out. Then there's always the point of, if all the services online are requiring that, then I want to access the services, then sort of like it's difficult, I think, to live, to go back to to keep on living in the analog space. On the topic, the other topic you raised, yes, you're right on the operating system and the platforms. And in fact, these are all stakeholders that are part of the conversation. And it's sort of like we open a difficult topic here, but about European sovereignty on developing these technologies, because we do not have operating system in Europe. We do not have device manufacturers. So obviously we need, right, to have these stakeholders in the conversation. Also, there are some limitations as to how much Europe can be sovereign on what they are developing. So it is, yes, there are some delicate conversations as to making sure that there will be the right level of security, right, as for our needs here in Europe. And there will be anyway a certification behind the wallet. So it's not that any wallet can be a European wallet. So there will be like some rules and some control as to what is acceptable here, at least here in Europe. And this might, again, be different approach to other regions around the world.
And in Africa, I think you said that you'll be working mostly with Rwanda, sort of with the.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And are they having a specifically advanced situation, if I may say, advanced in, let's say, sort of more integration of digital services?
The reason why I'm working with Rwanda is because there is Carnegie Mellon University, and they have created something called a UPansi network. That is a network of universities across Africa on the ICT topic. So basically, it's a very easy way in to get researchers connections among different countries on specific on security topics and IT. So this is why I work with a team of researchers based in Carnegie Mellon in Rwanda, but it's really to have access to different researchers in different countries and understand what are some local constraints. So for example, we are looking at existing form of documents like ID cards that have a chip. How much can you use that chip, and how much that can be like a security companion in case you have a phone that is not a high-end phone, but is like a more basic phone. So you need to understand local constraints, and that's where the partnership helps, because of this capillarity of connections that they have starting from Rwanda.
Oh, that sounds really good. It sounds really good. Maybe are there any more questions, maybe for Julio and or for Debora? If not, then I would just like to say that it's extremely interesting also to have the cross-pollination between your story, Julio, and your story, Debora, because I remember when I was part of the Internet of Things working group from Gerald Santucci in 2009 and 2010, we were trying to move the whole field towards accepting that this Internet of Things was really talking about a hybrid reality. we didn't manage that. And one of the very important players in the group was the Article 29 Working Party. And they, combined with the French, who were very much focused on RFID at that time, were talking about the silence of the chips. And these two kind of ways of thinking, they fueled something that was already sort of in status nascendi happening, which then became the GDPR. So the GDPR is not, I would say, it's something that that has its own history, that has its own way of becoming, so to say. Focusing now on the on the wallet, for example, we're in a very different situation than 2009, 2010. So the things that are building our imaginaries may need something else than what we started there in terms of focusing on the data protection and then sort of branching out. So maybe it's also interesting to think about something that you put away a little bit further, like identity, like digital identity, that may come very soon to Latin America. And think about digital identity as something that you put out there and work back towards the things that are important now. So for example, focusing 2 years now on getting the GDPR in law, whereas a lot of these things are now happening related to identity and AI, you may also have to think about these issues, but it's fascinating. So it's happening as we speak, and it's happening very fast. So yeah.
If I can react, yeah, definitely. I think digital transformation and everything is changing very quickly, and especially now with artificial intelligence, we have seen a lot of movement or changes around different subjects. So definitely, we're in a very interesting moment right now. We have to discuss and think about the future, how we're going to create this framework law, thinking about how AI is going to impact them. And in our case in Guatemala, because we have different subjects that are not being defined very well, we have this opportunity right now to put at the same level, let's call it that way, of other countries that have already learned, but also to add these new things that are arising and to think about this, because some of the laws that were approved in different countries didn't think about these new things, these new disruptions that are coming like AI. So that's an opportunity for us as well.
Yes.
So definitely, yeah.
Yes, and I think maybe it's a good idea to think about really firmly grasping that opportunity and become one of the key voices in that debate, because for the politicians and for the people out there in the governments, AI is kind of is the flag, and the consultants will be moving in very quickly, and that they'll sort of they find this. So it's important to also to grab that field yourself. Okay, then I think we've neared the end. So I want to thank everyone for a very good debate, discussion, and presentations. And thank you for your presentations and your participation, and wish you good luck with all the projects. So we'll be in touch. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Good
Bye.
day.
Bye.